Thanks to CT scanners like the one right behind me, ripping through this $30,000 box of Topps Transcendent, we can now see inside sports card packs, boxes, cases without opening them. And the consequences of this are massive. So what does this mean for the values of sports cards and wax moving forward? And what should we do as collectors over the next year? Over the next 5 years, what do we think is going to actually happen? How is all of this going to affect breaking? Will it decline? Will some go out of business? Is trust gone? Will this affect eBay sales and their revenue? Will this affect auction sales, especially on older wax? I'm going to dive into all of this and give you guys a playbook on how to navigate the next few years of the hobby, because it's going to be a crazy ride. So one thing we know for sure is that confidence is broken. Look at these social media comments. Anytime a new break is announced or someone's just buying wax, the first comment, and often the most liked comment, is great. Have those been CT scanned? We know they've been CT scanned. Jeff Wilson has one here just from the other night where he was ripping a pack of Olympic, and many of the comments were, did you CT scan it first? Nat Turner was buying just some wax. He loves ripping old basketball wax. First comment, CT scanner. Backyard Breaks, every comment now. And this tells me that confidence is broken, and I'm going to tell you why that really matters, despite what you might hear from the contrary from other people in the hobby.
Tell you right now why it really isn't that big of a deal.
Before we dive in, one thing we need to consider is just how long this has been going on. So based on my research, I feel like the CT scanning, this technology has existed for a few years with the capability to look into ink like this. Based on my conversations with the company, I was the first one that broke the original interview. That's what feels right to me. So if we know this has been going on for a few years, the bigger question is, how pervasive is it? Usually when there's fraud in an industry, it's a 10-to-1 ratio, meaning there's one public company doing it and 9 doing it covertly. And that's what I believe is happening here. Industrial Inspection has offered this as a service publicly, and they've taken some flack for it. They're the only ones that are actually saying, hey, we're doing this. The other 9 are hidden, possibly in other countries, and I think it's been going on for years. So let's talk about what I think is safe. And again, I've been very wired into this CT scanning company, so I know what they're capable of and what they're not capable of, and they understand this tech better than anyone else. So most vintage right now is safe. However, they are getting better, and there might be a chance that they can look at 86 Fleer. But for now, most of the vintage wax is boring enough, it's flat enough that they can't see players' names, they can't tell. So that's safe for now. Magic the Gathering is safe for now. They can't figure out the ink, but again, they're making progress there. I think cheap boxes, the blasters you get at Target, are obviously safe. It's not worth the price to go find something that's worth $20 in the box. And then beyond that, honestly, anything under a few grand, the bang for the buck of CAT scanning, you really don't have to worry about it. It's that higher end stuff that really is the issue. There is one other area that I think is safe as well, and that is first off the line boxes. So breakers, they're not going to have time to send this off to get CAT scanned and come back. They want to be kind of the first to market, get people on their show, get people to break with them. They need to get this stuff out fast. I think first off the line will be relatively safe. What is not safe and what I would avoid at all costs right now? High-end older wax. Anything over a few grand, don't touch it. Don't enter a break for vintage wax. Even a few years. When I say vintage, don't enter a break for a Flawless from a few years ago. I think Flawless cases are absolutely toast. There's only a few cards in them, and they can very easily see the autograph, the name, the team, and the serial number. It's a joke. So those are not safe as well. I think things like Metal Universe, those are not safe because, again, you could have people just scanning them for the PMGs. They're not in there. You resell them. Same thing with Flawless. Any kind of case that relies on high value, less cards, that's something you just don't want to mess with right now. So what should you do if you're sitting on wax right now? I'm actually getting asked this a lot. People are coming up to me and saying, I have this year, I have this box. Should I just rip it? Should I open it? Should I sell it? What's going on? I think that anything in the category that I deemed unsafe, that I wouldn't touch right now, the prices are going to drop in the next few years. So if you're sitting on wax and you just like to have it, like I've got a box of 86 Fleer there, fine, just chill with it. But if you're actually going to sell this or try to flip this or try to find out what is inside, then I think what's going to happen is you really just need to rip it and sell it. And what's that's going to lead to, I'm calling it the great ripping. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in the hobby, but I think so much old wax is about to get opened in the next 12 months, 12 to 36 months, and even 5 years. It's going to flood the market with old cards, which is good. I mean, the cards were intended to be collected, not sitting in wax. But I think you have a tough decision to make. If you're sitting on this wax, do you wait to see what happens with the price? Do you catch that falling knife as the prices fall? Or do you just have fun and rip it and hope something inside is worth the value of it? And I think people will choose the latter and decide to rip. And that will start the great ripping, which I believe has already begun. So to help us understand what's going to happen with the hobby and prices in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, I went back to a trusty exercise I used to do all the time as a management consultant to help Fortune 500 companies predict the future of markets and predict the prices of markets. It's a great exercise that will bring clarity to what's happening to us in the hobby. So when you think about first order, second order, and third order effects, it's decisions that have consequences. So take a look at the left here. The action or the decision that happened is someone decided to scan cards. Pokemon was probably first. This was the first shot fired. The first order, the first round of consequences from this momentous decision are that you can now see inside packs, and that's common knowledge, and hobby confidence has dropped. This is where we are right now. But now let's go to the second order and the third order and the fourth order and kind of see what's going to play out here. Wax prices are very likely going to drop because confidence is down and people know that you can see inside them. People are going to likely avoid breaks. It might only be 2% to start, 5%, but they're very likely going to start avoiding them, or they're going to avoid certain types of breaks. And I think this is actually the most impactful one, is people are going to avoid resellers. Some of the bigger ones like Dave & Adams and Steel City Collectibles and just these bigger companies that resell, because they're thinking in the back of their heads, has this been scanned before? Not that these companies are doing it, but who knows where they get their product, if they get it off of eBay and somebody resold it on there. Now we go to the third order, which is starting to predict the future. If we know that wax prices are going to drop, then people are very likely going to open them. The consequences for breakers are that some of them close down or they have less demand. eBay very likely benefits. They're not heavy on breaking. A lot of stuff shifts to auctions. Reseller revenue is down. Card shows probably benefit from all of this. So if you keep following these effects down the path, you can start to see what the path looks like. It started with somebody just scanning Pokemon cards, but now wax is getting opened, chase cards are being found, the single supply is going up, and there's all sorts of other effects we can't even anticipate. But if you are active in the hobby or you're sitting on a large financial asset that you need to make a decision on, I think it's important for you to recognize this path and start to understand what are some of the consequences of the events happening right now. I can't obviously predict them all. I would be like Nostradamus if I could, but let me know in the comments if there's any others, especially that fourth or fifth order down the road. Based on these events happening, what do you think is going to happen to the hobby, to wax, to prices, to businesses in the hobby? I think there are massive implications. So my personal predictions based on this exercise, I don't think it's going to be as extreme as everything I laid out on the page, but I do think breaking is going to start to decline a bit. I did an entire video on this. You can see the trend in Google declining for breaking. Same thing with backyard. That's the first clue for me. Although I do think our society as a whole is it is headed into Back to the Future 2, Biff Tanner timeline, Gambling is great. Get that dopamine. So I do think breaking will always have a place. However, I think some smaller breakers are going to get squeezed out depending on what they focus on for cards in their breaks. The rest of it, I'm not sure. But I do know the hobby has taken a hit, and people who are sweeping this under the rug are nuts because this cat scanning stuff is going to change everything. Hopefully, Fanatics addresses this soon. They're going to need to. As this becomes more and more prevalent, they're going to have to either stop it or address it to get confidence back from the hobby because it is at a significant risk right now. Before you guys take off, I've actually got another video I did on how to identify when you're in a bubble based on my experience in financial markets and just applying it to sports cards. So check it out at the end. I think it'll be helpful, especially in the context of what we are living through right now. Thanks, everyone.